Then, the year 2020 has come to an end with only few days to go. 2020, of course, has its ups and downs. Nigeria, like any other country of the world, recorded a lot of successes, but also with some tolls. The global coronavirus pandemic that affected the economies of most nations was a case in point. But Nigeria is without doubt a success story in terms of global index of countries that effectively managed and tackled the global pandemic. Our casualty rate is evident among the lowest in the world, despite predictions that Africa and Nigeria in particular may experience the worst scenario of COVID-19. President Muhammadu Buhari proved the perception wrong with his dogged commitment in the fight against the virus through program funding, perhaps on the understanding that without a healthy population, creating a prosperous society might not be realized. Thanks to the commitment and national response of the federal government, despite crash in global oil price and economic lockdowns as a result of COVID-19, Nigeria is still top in terms of gross domestic product, nation in Africa and the 26th strongest economy in the world. The economy indeed is being tackled head-on with border reopening in preparation for the West African Common Market. Nigeria has already signed and ratified the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement and submitted instrument of ratification. 2020 has witnessed injection of massive collateral-free fund into the economy with so many people. Our democracy has come to stay, expressed in many by the president, and we are witnessing the will of the people in transparent electoral system like what we saw in Edo and Ondo states. Tonight on NT Tuesday Live, our searchlight will be on focus on the economy, railway, 2020, and retrospect and projection into 2021. What was the year like and how will 2021 look like? But after the background report.
Nigeria's economy was returning to its growth trajectory on the workable policies of the government and the involvement of private sector economic growth initiative. The country's GDP figures as released by the National Bureau of Statistics in first quarter of 2020 grew by 1.87% in real terms as against the 2.10% recorded in first quarter of 2019. While most economies contracted and global oil price plunged due to the impact of the global health crisis that slowed down economic activities, thereby resulting in recession, some key sectors helped to revive the economy.
A total of 18 sectors recorded positive growth in the third quarter relative to 13 sectors during the second quarter of 2020, which reflects significant improvement in economic activity.
As a government that had authorized diversification from a mono economy, the proactive steps yielded the needed support as the non-oil sector grew by 2.06% in first quarter of 2020, with the fiscal and monetary policy initiative to drive both domestic and foreign investments. The country's foreign investment outflow in second quarter of 2020 was punctured by the global pandemic, while local investors took advantage of the ease of doing business initiative to grow their
review and what will 2021 look like. In the course of the program, we shall be taking reports across the country, and also our phone lines will be opened. Also, you can be part of the conversation tonight through our Twitter handle at NTA Tuesday Live. My guests, I will let you know of them tonight, and I'm beginning with Honorable Farouk Adamu. Farouk Adamu is former minority leader, House of Representatives, politician, industrialist, farmer, and APC chieftain, also businessman. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you. Good evening, viewers.
Managing Director, Nigeria Railway Corporation, Fidet Okira. It's a pleasure having you on the program.
Good evening, accompaniment of the citizen Nigerians.
Also tonight we have Professor Ken Ife. Professor Ken Ife is a development economist. Welcome to Tuesday Live.
For inviting me.
Jayola Akinola, retired director in charge of dams and reservoir, Federal Minister of Agriculture. Good to see you on the program.
Thank you very much.
Farouk Adamu, before we bend backward into spring into 2021, what will you say 2020 was like?
Well, I think the year is that of mixed grill, mixed reactions, mixed things. One, the year started well, like any other year. Then COVID came in, lockdown, everything shut, not only in Nigeria, all over the world. Then the economy went really bad. Then we started coming out as a people, as a country, as the whole world. And insecurity also, a lot of it, a lot of insecurity in the country. And then the government tried as much as possible to take charge, also to bring the economy back online. Also, I make bold to say that this year, this 2020, as bad as it is, the government of the day has done more than any other government in terms of like how farmers were, given input, how credit lines were given to farmers, to citizens of this country, how so many other things that were done to cushion the effect of this pandemic, which is not akin to only Nigeria. So 2020 is generally not a good year for humanity, which Nigeria belongs to, the part of the world.
Okay, let's go to Fidet. Fidet, I know you want to narrow it to where you belong, but I will as much as want you to also expand. 2020, was it quite interesting?
I would say it was an interesting year. More lessons were learned. And you see, you build on what every person, when you go through something, you try to build on it. I think with what happened from March this year, not only Nigerians, the whole world have learned that we have to be ready, and there is an omnipresent, whether you call it God or Allah, is there that always program what happens in the world, no matter how you plan. But it's the reaction by those. You see, I always tell people, you have God omnipresent, but you have God that is present, which is government. God provides for everybody. Government now is in a position to arrange what God has provided for the benefit of mankind. And now that COVID happened without notice, we have to, and if Nigerian or the government was not having a sound mind and some people that are serious, that, Nigeria never believed that COVID was real. And, a leader that was not mindful would have just, okay, let's play along. You see what happened in the US? And the president just said that COVID is not real, and see how he's dealing with them. So how serious Nigerians were taking against COVID. I know some people were saying they are using it to siphon money, But the government knew what they were doing, that they had to protect the people, and they continued to provide the resources, and the people who, not just handpicking people that were serious, to ensure that COVID was checkmated. That's why we are where we are now. Otherwise, would have been the country would have been in a mess. At least knowledge, little, how, no matter how little, it was passed on to people. Wear your mask, use alcoholic to sanitize your hand, wash your hands. People may think it's just not a. There are people are playing with it, but it entered because when you continue to repeat things, some people will think and they will abide. Those of us who deal with the real grassroots, because our operations are meant for the downtrodden, we saw that when they resisted, but at the time they have to fall in line. And government is for everybody, and everybody is government. And we have to take it. You see, as you lay your bed, so also you lie on it. If you think the government is not for you, you will not, even when you see the benefits, you will leave it. So it's all for us to own it and make sure we get the best benefits we can derive from it. So I would say it's a good year. We have learned a lot from it, and I hope going ahead things will be done better, and those things we are taking for granted, like the hospitals and others, we have to keep them and make sure they are there to take care of the citizens. People are no longer traveling for treatment; they are now getting the treatment in Nigeria. I think that's another positive thing, that we have to build our system and make it work.
Okay. I'll take Professor Kenife last on this opening segment. Let me go to Jayola. Jayola, sorry, I am told you're retired from the Federal Minister of Water Resources, not Federal Minister of Agriculture. Beg your pardon there, please. Now, within your ambit, what's your projection? How was 2020 like?
Talking to you. He's asking you.
Okay. Thank you very much. You know, 2020 has been a very special year. So special to the extent that what has happened, nobody will ever expected it. And government policies and plans are based on the fact that things will work. And this type of thing we are seeing will never have happened. And because it has happened, we could see a lot of challenges with government and with the people. We have a situation where so many plans could not be implemented because of what has happened. Okay, imagine the traveling alone. Very difficult for people to travel now because of the insecurity that we have. Even let's look at the area of agriculture and maybe water resources. In that area, people go to farm, and we know the challenges that we have in the farm. And because of these challenges, it has been difficult for things to be done. So, government has done its best, but at the same time, the situation we have at hand may not have allowed it to be able to get what it wants to get. But our prayer is that as we move ahead, God will help us to be able to make sure that things work better. Maybe year 2021, but year 2020, we know that we started, and as we go into year 2021, because of this COVID, which we learned, you may even, for the first few months, you may even have a worse part of it. We just pray that things will get better.
Kenife, I held you back to react last. From the econometrics, Let's get your perspective without necessarily going to specifics.
The year 2020 is a year we should not be in a hurry to forget. It is a year of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And, you know, you could say many things that could have gone wrong in an economy all suddenly went wrong. And what it has done was it exposed all the weaknesses in various sectors of the economy. For example, it increased our liquidity crisis, which we've always known that it increased that. It tested the strength of our manufacturing sector and showed just how dependent it is on imported raw materials. Because the very first act during the COVID was massive global disruption in supply chain. And where you have 80% of your manufacturing sector dependent on importing raw material, obviously it was going to be chaotic, and it really did. And in our monocultural economy, which means that 90% of our forex was dependent on oil exports, also took a hit. And then what could have cushioned it is capital importation. That also took a very massive hit. So that's why I said that it exacerbated the forex liquidity crisis. But it also did expose other areas like the ports. You see what the port congestion means. We are only instead of 200,000 naira to move container out of the port to Lagos, it's now 1.8 million. Railway shows how important railway is right now in all the infrastructure configuration. It's the most critical resource that we need right now to deal with a combination of evil tendencies that are fueling inflation, which is around the transport sector. So many things, even the inflation that we have and the recession that we went into is stagflation. It's not the normal recession. It's stagflation, which is where normally you would have expected in ordinary recession for things to be trending down, like interest rate trending down, inflation trending down. All of them are steaming in the opposite direction. So that is just how complex the situation we have in 2020. And of course, the security was even the worst, to the fact that it even culminated in NSAS, where we are initially having, in fact, the baton for Northeast has been transferred to Northwest. So, there are, where we have one too many. But having said that, there are robust macroeconomic responses, both fiscal and monetary, and the authorities have not rested. They have tackled the situation head on, and that's why we have hope in the future.
Being a politician and very much available, let me see from the eye of a politician. Would you say because of the global challenge we had in the year 2020, politics was in low ebb, or was government overwhelmed? We didn't play the way we should play it?
Well, not exactly. Let's see, there are some elections that took place in this country.
Edo and Ondo.
Exactly. And it happened, with the COVID. Still, people went out to vote. They voted whom they wanted to vote for. And of course, challenges here and there. And also, you could see in places like Bayelsa, where also elections took place there, you remember. And yes, the government was overwhelmed, certainly because of the security challenges to deal with the terrorists, with the, bandits, and then election, violence here and there and so on. But so far, politically, yes, politics has also taken its own toll, on the crisis in the world. But generally, politically speaking, I think it is as bad as it is good. It is as bad because people couldn't go out to campaign the way they should. The campaigns were restricted. To some extent, mass gathering were disallowed. Only a few occasions, probably final rallies and so on. But ordinarily, when politicians would have probably gone door to door or local government by local government word to word, couldn't do that because of the COVID. Then the good part of it was that, if nothing, people went out to vote for whom they wanted to vote for. Also, the government probably spent less, instead of spending as much as would have done if everything was available. So politically speaking, I think so far so good.
But at the beginning, it looks as though the umpire will not be able to deliver.
Yeah, exactly. I know INEC, were apprehensive. INEC, even wanted to postpone the election, if not for the constitutional quagmire, constitutional issues that certain elections must take place at certain times. But then, if probably the COVID had gone worse than it was, maybe there could have been doctrine of necessity. But thank God, INEC, brought about novelty. The way results were transmitted, the way supervision was done, the way things were done during elections. So I think INEC also did well. I mean, they were COVID compliant to some extent. So far, I think INEC also, kudos to them for what they have done. Some of us politicians are not happy with them, obviously, where most places that whichever party loses, the first person or the first body to be accused of doing the wrong thing was INEC. But I'm sure they're used to that. They're used to us politicians, because whatever INEC does, the other party will not agree with them. So, but with the situation at hand, COVID, I think they've done well.
What about opposition?
Well, you see, honestly, the opposition in this country, I think they are doing very well. And we thank them for being in opposition, but sadly, they are not opposing the way they should. First of all of us talk about Nigeria. Everybody talks about better Nigeria. But we don't talk about better people, better Nigerians. Because if you have a better country, but you don't have better people, then they are not doing anything. Now, so the opposition parties, instead of probably bring about issue-based opposition, sometimes it ends up personal attacks on Mr. President, on the governors, on so on and so forth. Instead of the opposition to accuse us, the ruling party, of not delivering 1, 2, 3, 4, then we talk on issues of what we have done right and what we have done wrong. Anyway, it's not their place to say whatever we've done, whether it's good or right. But I call on them to see us as one people first. We have to have a country first before there is an opposition or ruling party. So the opposition party should try as much as possible to keep opposing. Oppose as much as they should, but let them be constructive. I don't know, probably it's COVID that is also making them not to oppose the way they should. But honestly, I think the opposition parties are not doing extremely well in terms of issue-based opposition, but rather than attacks. Every day you've opened pages of newspapers or programs like this, people are attacking personalities instead of attacking the programs of government, which I think the opposition should try to learn and ensure they oppose whichever government. If we tomorrow become, in opposition, we have learned that, look, you don't attack personalities, because attacking personalities does not change the program, does not change the government, but attack the program so that the government will see that, look, what are you doing right? What are you doing wrong? So that there could be improvement for all of us. But as I said, we should strive for better Nigeria with better Nigerians, so that all of us follow the rules and regulations, the orders. You find out in certain countries, there are our neighbors here, Niger, Benin Republic, where a policeman will blow a whistle and you stop. You will not move. But in this country, us Nigerians, most of us, don't follow the rules and regulations. All problems are heaped on government. And what is government? We are government. Those in authority hold these things in trust on our behalf. The president of this country is no more Nigerian than you and I. The governors are no more Nigerian than you and I. Or those in position of authority are just there holding it in trust. So we, all of us, as government, we, the citizens of this country, should try as much as possible, whether you're in opposition or in the ruling party, whatever is done that is wrong, even if it's within your party, try to say as it is so that we strive to have better people. The better people will build better country, better nation, so that whatever we see in other countries, we keep saying that so things are happening in these countries, we can also do it. And just like the previous speaker said, COVID has taught us now that, look, we have to grow what we will eat, we have to eat what we grow. If the government of the day had not banned importation of rice, if the farmers were not encouraged to go to farm, we would have been in trouble. Whatever anybody will say, whatever anybody in the opposition party will say, this government has brought about people to go back to farm, grow. We have rice. Yes, rice is more expensive now for obvious reasons. So in terms of that, I think so far so good, and I hope the opposition will take cue from this to ensure that, look, give us some credit for feeding Nigerians. Give us credit for doing things in the right way. Then you can also knock us head on security. Yes, there are challenges. I agree, totally. There are challenges in security, which the government is trying to work on it.
You can be part of the conversation tonight through our Twitter handle at TwitterLiveNTA, and also through our phone number that is displayed on the screen. Well, MD of Nigeria Railway Corporation, Professor Ken Ife, in his opening remarks said, he described it as the good, the bad, and the ugly 2020. And one specific area he mentioned, which I want to tailor to you, he said there was massive global recession in the supply chain. And I know the railway sector was I remember at some point your operations were totally brought to a halt. You came back. It took a while before you could get back on track because of COVID-19 protocol and all that. So in specific terms, would you say it was a worthwhile experience? Did you gain? Did you lose? Are you on track?
Yeah, right now, we pray that the will and the courage the present government has taken to bring about development in infrastructure should continue for a while, because it's not just rail. Infrastructure is not what you can develop overnight, and it's expensive, but is it good to have it? Yes. The developed country we are referring to, if they were not having those this infrastructure we are talking about, they will not be where they are now. So when the rail started from Kaduna, Abuja, as a rail person I was saying, this was the wrong step. Why not start from Lagos, where you have the port? But I've seen now that my eyes are open that it was not the wrong step, because it has opened the eyes of who is who in Nigeria, because they live in Abuja and they have seen it real time, they have seen it live, and they have not clamoring for rail. They are using rail to Kaduna, they are coming from Kaduna to rail to Abuja. As a result, when nobody want to play with a rail, everybody is now saying, more rail, more rail, more rail. And 3 weeks ago, we started running skeletal service in Lagos to Ibadan. We started with 1 passenger from Ibadan and 8 passengers from Lagos. As of today, we moved 240 people on a trip to Lagos. I think about 280 from Lagos to Ibadan. And by the time we get to the port, the traffic situation we have in Apapa, we see it will just vanish, because those containers, where you have 30 trailers, that is 1 train. And if you move 10 trains a day, you have moved 300 containers off the roads. The businessman who has invested in truck, it's not good. It's still going to be required, because we are not going to take, the rail will not take those containers to the various warehouses or to the companies, but the trucks are required to move them from the railhead to their various, so there's still going to be business, better business instead of driving from Lagos, spending 1 month in Lagos to move 1 container, you can actually go to either Kano or Sokoto, maybe 4 times a month on road. And why do you have to flog your trailer from Lagos to Kano or from Lagos to Sokoto when you can move from the closest head? Your trailer will last longer. The driver will not become a drunk because he's stressed and decide to use alcohol or drug to remain alive to drive the truck. But if he drives just for 4 hours and get to his destination and rest, I think the people on the road, their life, the users, their life will be safe, and everybody will have peace of mind. So I believe with COVID or no COVID, the government has not slowed down in ensuring, meeting their responsibility in ensuring that we get the rail delivered to the people. And apart from maybe the timeline that was set that couldn't be met during that 6 or 8 months, that people have to be quite conscious to stay safe, and the contractor have to also try to stay safe by minimizing the number of workers at site, which has now stressed the